That music means it's time for the Don Lemon Show, specifically the one that we call Lemon Live at 5. I can't tell you how excited and happy I am today to be with this young lady. We spent so much time together doing such great work during George Floyd and during the 2020 election. And now here we are in 2024. I'm going to get to LaTosha Brown in just a moment. I'm so happy she's joining us. But it is official. The Vice President Kamala Harris, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, are going to sit down for their first joint interview. They're going to do it tomorrow night as Democrats work to broaden their base as excitement from last week's Democratic National Convention, which, by the way, unofficially I hear was a giant COVID spreader. Okay, we won't talk about that. The interview is going to be conducted by my very dear friend, Miss Dana Bash. You may know that. Dana's a close friend. Even at my wedding, we're so close. And if we have time later, maybe I've already asked her for some behind the scenes information that she can share with me. But Dana is the consummate professional. So we'll see what she shares, and whatever she shares will be on the professional level. So this is a big deal, or is it? Do you think it's a big deal? Because they keep trying to push her to do an on the record interview. They're saying, oh, she hasn't done an interview. But I say it's not like the woman is hiding. She has been out there. Oh, LaTosha, hold on. I know you're raring to go. I feel like it's not like she's hiding. She's been out there even before the president dropped out of the race. I saw her taking questions at Essence Fest from journalists. So let me introduce LaTosha Brown is a renowned community organizer, political strategist. She is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, an organization whose get out the vote efforts have literally turned the tide of major elections like the Alabama Senate race in 2017, and I believe the presidential race in 2020 as well. LaTosha Brown, how are you doing? Take it away. Am I wrong? It's not like she's hiding. Great for Dana and everybody. I don't think it's a big deal.
How is she hiding in plain sight? Hey, Don, I'm happy to be here. This woman has been only in the White House for the last 3.5 years. She's been out there. I think this is a distraction. We have to really, when we get information, we have to recognize where the source is. The source, this has been coming. I think that the Republican Party and Trump, they're panicking. They don't have anything to actually say. He wasn't expecting this, wasn't prepared for it. And so what do you do now? You create some kind of chaos or some distraction, this big idea. She's not sitting down. She's been talking for 3.5 years about the administration. She's literally been sharing her own her platform, even when we saw at the Democratic National Convention. So a lot of this, I think it's a lot of hoopla around to try to create a distraction. But I do think it's good that she's sitting down in an interview. That's always, I think, an opportunity for people to meet her.
Great minds think alike. I think that if you are in politics, if you are going to be the leader of the free world, and if you are the leader of the free world or the vice president or whatever it is, I think that you should sit in front of journalists and that you should take questions. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander, because I am old enough to remember when Donald J. Trump stopped speaking to major networks, including the one that I was on, and stopped giving interviews. I did 6 or maybe 8 before he became president of the United States. Once he became president of the United States, we were fake news, didn't grant us an interview, would only talk to friendly media, would only talk as he was going to the chopper. You remember Chopper Talk? And take the questions that he wanted to take. So if you're going to criticize her, then perhaps you should criticize him, or he should understand that it goes both ways. Now tell me where's the lie, LaTosha?
There's no lie that you have told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the damn truth. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the first interview, also historic Black voter registration that I want to discuss with LaTosha, and America's political gender divide. And we're going to hear from a lot of people. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, Kamala Harris, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, they're going to sit down for their first joint interview tomorrow night with my friend Dana Bash, because there's been all this mounting criticism, right, about her not, taking interviews since July, since her reelection bid in July. But now that the vice president has agreed to an interview, Republicans have found a new reason to attack her, LaTosha. This is from, I hate to play this, but I think people should know. You tell me what you think after, but this is from former Bush official Scott Jennings last night. It was on CNN.
the line now going to be, well, why isn't she doing it by herself?
Yeah, I do think people are going to bring that up. Look, I have great confidence in Dana and CNN to do this. I think it's incredibly weak sauce to show up with your running mate. The fact that they don't have enough confidence in her to let her sit herself, the actual top of the ticket, and do a single interview. In fact, I think the hand-wringing and the gyrations over this over the last month show a troubling lack of confidence in her political ability, which also makes you wonder as a voter, well, what kind of president would you be if this kind of a small-time decision, can we do an interview or not, what does that look like for your decision-making process, so on? So, yes, I think Republicans are going to think it's pretty weak to show up with effectively someone to take up half the time.
Okay, so let me just say this, all right, before you answer this. For the record, Donald J. Trump has sat for joint interviews with J.D. Vance. He has sat for a joint interview with Mike Pence. Mitt Romney sat for a joint interview with Paul Ryan. Nothing new, a very long-standing practice. And yet, when Kamala Harris does it, these men call it weak sauce. And I also want to push back on the notion that Republicans say that Harris is not taking questions from the press or talking policy, because this is objectively not true. I'm going to play something on that in a little bit. But weak sauce? Do you think it's weak sauce? Should she have sat down by herself?
To watch that clip, I don't even really want to give space to even respond to that. To watch that one clip, the level of racism and sexism, think about his choice of words. It's interesting that he used the word that part of what they do is to try to undermine, particularly with women, around our ability and to place it and to paint this picture that we're incompetent. Right. And so in this space around her leadership, that in some way her showing up with her mate, her running mate is incompetence, rather than perhaps she has a different leadership style. Perhaps unlike Donald J. Trump, she actually listens and believes that you can listen to people and get wise counsel. Perhaps.
Or she's not afraid of having someone next to her because she's not afraid of being outshone by someone. And she doesn't have to be the center of attention the entire time.
Absolutely. Perhaps her ego is strong enough and big enough that she can actually have a running mate and really not feel any kind of way. So I think that is very reflective of a kind of leader that is confident, a kind of leader who actually believes in listening and the input of others and having wise counsel. Number one. The second part that I want to raise, at a word that jumped out to me and just disturbed my spirit, because we're seeing it over and over again. Out of all of the words that he chose to use, he uses the word gyration. Right. There's an attempt to over-sexualize her in this space, as we see with women all the time, to really create and attach us to words like weak, to attach us to words that's really around sexual or physical behavior. That word was completely out of place just now in that clip. But he used that because what we're seeing across the country is we're actually seeing these used strategically, being used to describe Kamala or to put her in such a light around to diminish her around being a woman, and to give this air of she has some kind of, she's a loose woman, which we all know where that derives from. So it's really interesting that what I see is over and over again, I see the talking points and the strategy of the Republicans.
Yeah. By the way, Luis, who's in the Morales, who's in the chat, this is live. This is not on tape, so you can ask whatever you want. And by the way, LaTosha, our viewers, our subscribers are loving you. They're saying, speak the truth. Okay, so a lot of people are mad with that network as well. Sandra Kelly said that network sucks. So I'm not going to say that. But I finally catch a live show, says Claudette. Yes, you're live. We're live at 5 every day. At least we try to be. Okay, so listen, I think that you're right. I didn't pick up. I'm glad that you as a woman picked up on that, because I would have never picked up on the gyration thing. That sort of weak sauce thing I picked up on. I'm not sure what that meant. So anyways, there you go. So, but I said I needed to push back too, because objectively, this is not true that she's can't answer questions, because this is Harris. This is at a press gaggle. This is just over a little week ago, a little bit of a week ago. Watch this.
Some economic policies last week. Yeah. Can you explain how you're going to pay for those, and can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. That it's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. And when we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools, again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. When you are strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits, and it pays for itself in that way.
Okay, didn't seem like she was afraid there, and it seems like she answered. I mean, listen, you're out there talking to the people, you know these policies, you know about the child tax credit. Many people are interested in it. Did she stutter, or did you find anything wrong with that?
I think she answered the question. I mean, the woman is on a campaign trail. I think she answered the question. I think that we want to take very complicated kind of policy pieces, and we're going to boil them down as much as we can to give the kind of opportunity to speak to them so that Americans can learn it. But I mean, to learn more about it. But here we are, like in this space that I actually think that she addressed it. And I do think that the child tax credit is a major big piece of around policy that we need, that we know that it cut child poverty in half. That's done. That's a pretty big deal.
LaTosha, could you make this make sense? Have you ever heard Donald Trump answer questions? Have you ever heard the things that come out of his mouth? I like my heroes that are not captured, making fun of a New York Times reporter, saying to me about Megyn Kelly, she had blood coming out of her wherever. And you have nerve to criticize what Kamala Harris, the vice president, might say or has said on it. How can you there is no comparison to I don't know any political figure that I can compare the stupidity that has come out of Donald Trump's mouth.
You know, I think that
and these are the very people who are defending him. Sorry.
Yeah, no, those are the very people that are defending him. That's why we know it's not real. Like at the end of the day, this is to find ways to literally be able to come after a candidate. And so they're trying to find ways to actually nitpick, like death by 1,000 cuts. The truth of the matter is, you can expect an answer for Trump. His answer is me. It's me. It's me. It's me. It's me. It's me. Right? That's the only answer that you will get from Donald Trump.
Really? You think he's selfish? Donald Trump? Really? Are you saying he's a megalomaniac? I'm being sarcastic, as you know. So LaTosha, listen, I want to pivot this conversation a little bit and talk about something that you are very well versed in, and I'm talking about voter turnout and voter enthusiasm. Because in addition to calling the sitting vice president saying weak sauce and saying gyrations, as you mentioned last night, Scott Jennings also said this about her campaign. Watch.
Organic. The entire Kamala Harris campaign has been organic. And so now we're...
What? Organic. This is the literal most manufactured presidential campaign ever. She didn't even run.
It's the
opposite of organic.
Can I ask you one question? Like, you've been a part of a lot of campaigns, right?
Yes.
A ton of campaigns.
And in every one,
and how many campaigns in your manufacturing have you been able to manufacture 400,000 volunteers or $540 million? Or
I mean, Bakari, preach, it's manufactured. What was not manufactured about, I hate to keep going back to this, LaTosha, but what was not manufactured about someone who pretended to be a smart businessman on television or whose entire persona was made up from a reality television show? So, but that's manufactured, but also it is real because he did become president of the United States. So regardless of how he got into the race, he did become president of the United States. Regardless of how Kamala Harris got into the race, it is real. She is raising money. And by the way, she is beating him in the polls.
You know, the bottom line is what we're manufacturing, what's being manufactured right now
is outrage.
Right. That is what being manufactured. What's being manufactured is when you push too hard when you go after people, when you try to take away the rights of women to have complete autonomy and authority over their bodies, when you actually align yourself with white nationalists, when you create policies to try to really dissuade people from voting, to support voter suppression, when you show up to places and you're dishonest, that all of those things create a certain kind of consequence. And what the consequence, people in this country, and what we're showing, their people have been activated. They want an alternative. They are not, they under no circumstances do they want Donald Trump. They see her as a viable option around that. They see her as someone that's more reflective of American values and inclusivity. And ultimately, what is being manufactured right now is hope in this country. What's being manufactured right now is that this campaign is manufacturing all kinds of positions that, because they don't have a real argument, a real sustainable argument of why Donald Trump needs to be in office and why Kamala Harris is not, or Vice President Kamala Harris is not a strong candidate and contender.
Mm-hmm.
They can't come up with anything. So what do? They've shown it. They make it up.
Mm-hmm. So in our poll, we have a poll that's up now, and I would love for you guys to participate. And it says, is Vice President Harris talking enough about policy? Is Vice President Harris talking enough about policy? The poll is up. Almost 400 of you have voted. So continue to vote on that. And then I will tell you what the results are. Also, please hit the thumbs up. We like that. Like and subscribe, because you know that affects the algorithm. It keeps us on the air, talking to people and highlighting and platforming, as they say, folks like the great LaTosha Brown. Okay, so LaTosha, this caught my eye this morning. I want to play. This is a portion of a CBS News report. It's a soundbite that is a little longer than the others, but I think the audience will find it absolutely fascinating, and it's right up your alley. So here it is. Watch, and we may stop it early. Here it is.
Tracking something really interesting going on right now. It's a surge in voter registration in key groups ahead of the November election. Among young black women, registration is up more than 175%. You heard that right, more than 175% in 13 states. That's compared to the same time in 2020. This, according to the data firm TargetSmart. Registration has also increased among young Latinas and Black Americans. Tom Bonnier joins us now. He's a senior advisor at TargetSmart. Tom, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming in. 175%, can that possibly be right? You must have triple-checked this, or many more times than that.
You're right to repeat the number, because I've more than triple-checked it. It's incredibly unusual to see changes in voter registration that are anywhere close to this. I mean, to remind people, 175% is almost tripling of registration rates among this specific group. You just don't see that sort of thing happen in elections normally.
And what does that tell us, if anything, about either enthusiasm, attention, propensity to vote for these newly registered participants?
Tells us a lot. The reason that we look at this voter registration data is because the polls will only tell us so much. The polls tell us how people are going to vote. They don't tell us if or who is going to vote. It's a big question. The best indicator of that is the actions that people are taking. Number one, registering to vote. Someone who says, I want to participate in this election. And so as we've seen these questions of which side has the advantage in intensity and enthusiasm, we look for changes in voter registration like this. People who are newly registered to vote are much more likely to vote on Election Day. So it not only means that there's a bigger pool of voters for either campaign to draw from and turn out on Election Day, but generally it's an indicator of a broader enthusiasm among that specific group. So people who are already registered to vote, who look like those voters who are registering to vote, tend to vote at higher rates when you see those surges in registration.
Got it. Okay, thank you guys for that. LaTosha, 175% in 13 states, up from 2020. And then I don't know if you saw that up there, which you probably know. Black women in general up 98.4%, and then young Latino and Black Americans up as well. Those were the numbers that they were concerned about when President Biden was in the race, correct? And now they're up more than 100%.
You know, I think we have to recognize, I think there are three things that have taken place. I think one, I think there's been a shift in the environment because I think people feel a pathway to victory, that they feel a sense of hope. I will give a personal example of my niece. I have a niece that I was trying to get engaged in this election cycle. She was very upset about what was happening in Gaza. She actually would only refer to President Biden as Genocide Joe. And she and I would just bump heads about this election and participate in this election. And she had decided she wasn't going to, Trump was too far for her. But she was just not going to vote. She didn't know if she was going to vote or not. On the day which President Biden said that he was supporting, that he was going to not run, and he was supporting Kamala Harris, she actually called me and said, Auntie, I want to volunteer. What can I do? That's significant. That was a temperature change just for me. For someone who was not even interested in voting this election cycle, to go from for years, I've tried to get her engaged, to call me, this 23-year-old, to call me and say, not only am I going to vote, how do I get down? How do I participate? How do I volunteer? You see those numbers all across the board, not just you don't see those numbers just in terms of people who are registering. We're seeing an uptick in volunteers. We're seeing an uptick in people who are finding out information. Even vote.org, when you see the numbers, I think they've increased on vote.org by 700% of what they normally get this time. It is reflective of there's hope and enthusiasm. I also think that there's a connectivity to an issue. I think part of the reason why women is that because women do feel like our rights are being attacked. That Roe v. Wade, when you look at the election, the history of the election since that overturning, that issue is a very important issue around reproductive rights and reproductive justice for us. And I think that's driving it as well. And I think there's a third issue that is driving it. It was interesting. I was sharing today, I went grocery shopping and I got some milk, and the carton of milk was like almost $6. I was like, wait. Like, I literally put the milk back. I really did. And I really needed it. And I had to think for a second. And I was like, wait, what is happening? And so what's interesting, I think what Vice President Kamala Harris is doing is she's actually talking about the economy different. Normally what we hear is, the economy, what we heard from even when Biden was running, the economy is doing well. Unemployment rates are down. The GDP is doing well. All of those things as indicators. Everyday people, and particularly young people, are not judging it by that. They're saying something is happening. Costs are going up. That when I think about the economy, I think about two things. I think about opportunity and cost. And she's actually been speaking to that. She's been talking about price gouging and being able to do something around price gouging. She's been talking about expanding opportunities. She's been talking even on her HBCU tour about literally being able to provide extended opportunities for people to have higher education opportunities. I'm saying that because I think that is part of the message. That is not just the fact that it's a woman that's running, although I certainly think that that's made a difference of who she is, but it's also, I think, some of the things that she's saying of what people care about. People like to see themselves as candidates. The fact that she worked at McDonald's. I had one of my friend's daughters called me and said, do you know she used to work at McDonald's just like me? And so there's a connection, that there's this idea that she can identify with as a working class person, as a college student, as a struggling person, that I've got to work at McDonald's to take care of myself or to put me through school. Other people can connect to that. And so that in itself makes it more, the connection stronger, and it's more believable. And people feel like that she will have a sense of understanding what everyday folks are going through.
Wow. You had $6 for, I was going to say, where were you? Whole Foods? You weren't at the,
what's happening?
You weren't at the Aldi's. I mean, come on. But yeah, $5.99, $6 for a carton of milk in some places. Walmart, $3.50 for, I mean, wow. So there you go. Listen, I want to talk about that because I was on MSNBC, not last night, the night before, and I said two things can be true. The economy can be firing on by most metrics, but then if prices are up, right, people feel that they have less money in their wallets and less money in their household because they are paying higher prices, right? And that price gouging and all of that. So all of that can be true. But I also think that there are a number of factors behind this surge that you're seeing now. One of the biggest has been Harris's phenomenal digital strategy. I don't know if you've seen it, but they're on fire. Kamala HQ is on fire. The memes are everywhere. Young people love them. I did only social media content for the convention, and it was firing at all cylinders. I've never had so much engagement. I want to play something from her official campaign account that was just posted yesterday. Watch this.
him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs. Those black jobs.
Donald Trump is an unserious man.
One of those black jobs. Those black jobs. One of those. Who's gonna tell him?
So, listen,
I posted that myself on TikTok.
I did too.
I did. You know, I think it's a couple of things even related to that. That one, I think people are getting ownership of it. You know, they tried to weaponize her laugh. For years, they've tried to weaponize her laugh. She's owning it. People are owning it and saying, yes, we like it. Even the ad, I saw an ad, there was a negative ad that the Republicans put out where she was dancing at a party that she had at her home. Actually, I was there. It was actually a really quite fun party. But anyway, that she had at her home around celebrating hip hop. And it's interesting.
I remember that in the fuchsia pants. Who was she dancing to?
In the fuchsia pants.
What was the song? It was a San Francisco rapper. Anyway, so I'll think about it.
Song, but anyway, I love that clip. What they have really underestimated is they always go a step too far. They believe that their worldview is the worldview for the rest of us, and it is not. And so part of literally putting like fun and joy back in politics, right? Seeing that she's a real human being, that she dances, that she laughs, that she's pleasant, that she can take care of business at the same time. People actually appreciate that. Right. They may not appreciate that. They see that as something negative. But even it was really interesting. I saw that post and people were tearing him down on that post. They were actually saying, oh, because I think the caption said, would you vote? Do you want this person to be your president? And it just shows a clip of her dancing. Literally down the line, probably 85% of all of the responses were like, absolutely, hell yeah, that's what we want. We want a president that actually can literally live, that really is reflective of the public. And so I think her campaign has been brilliant. The ads have been really brilliant. I think the campaign has done a really good job in terms of the social media. But what's interesting is organically, people at social media content creators are having a ball. They are having a field day.
Yeah, I had fun. I had fun creating content, especially around all of this stuff. Thank you, Shakira. Shakira said it was vibrant thing, but it's vibrant. I think that they were saying
it is. It's a vibrant thing. That's not San Francisco.
It's not.
No, that's Jermaine Dupri.
Oh, is it Jermaine?
Yes.
Because she answered a question about a San Francisco rapper in one of the things, but it was vibrant thing. And
come on.
I know. I saw Jermaine the other night. Don't tell him I said that.
I will tell him.
But I thought that was great for her to be doing that. I don't know why people are making fun of that.
And young people too. I think what they're not understanding is that young voters have now eclipsed in terms of their numbers, and they're looking like the Swifties. Like the Swifties for Harris have just been blowing up. They've raised over $100,000 in one phone call. Like young people are actually taking ownership of this campaign. They're using their creativity. They're lifting pieces up, and it is actually making a difference.
Folks in the chat are saying that's Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest. That is not
Q-Tip? Oh well, I'm not Q-Tip. Cool. Wait a minute, am I wrong?
We both ain't cool. Go ahead.
So both of us ain't cool. Well, I know the song.
You Google it. You can Google it. We'll figure it out.
That is Q-Tip song. All right. Sorry, my
bad. So listen, I think there's another factor behind the surge in Republicans.
Thank you, Makana. I get all kinds of texts like, that's Q-Tip. You should know better. You're right. All right. My bad.
Well, they will check you in this chat.
They will check you in the chat.
And I love them for it. So thank you. Aaron Thompson says Q-Tip! Exclamation point.
That's right.
Q-Tip says Deborah Washington. All right, we got it. M. Moy says no Q-Tip. All right, we got his Q-Tip, y'all. We love you. Thank you for keeping us honest in the chat.
This right here proves my point, Don. This right here proves my point. This is what I'm saying. The way that we communicate, the way that we're engaged, the people that are engaged in this campaign would know that the song is Q-Tip, right? And so that makes difference. That is actually what I think in terms of popular culture and hip hop culture, and those of us in the generation, what is it, Generation X and Z, and I think now it's Generation Alpha or something. You know, at the end of the day, all of those things matter. The fact that her theme song is "Freedom" by Beyonce.
Yes,
that in itself says something. That says that you've got one set of candidates that literally represent the old America, like the old stale, and then you got another set of candidates that represent like this new America, like this new, a new kind of ticket. It's a new thing. Like my grandmother used to always say, she would say, baby, God is doing a new thing. So, I mean, I think people are seeing that there's a new thing that is being developed right now.
God is doing a new thing in you. How many times I've heard that on Sunday? And by the way, let me check y'all in the thing saying it's vibrant thing with a B. It's not. It's vibrant. V-I-V, not V-I-B. Okay. All right. Don't come for us unless we send for you. Okay. So I'm just everybody. It's all love. So everybody, don't get all hyped about it. Okay. So listen, I think that there's another major factor behind this surge. Is that Republicans have just gotten so hateful towards women, LaTosha. The naked misogyny of some conservatives running for office is just galling. This is Minnesota Senate candidate Royce White, who's now been endorsed by both Donald Trump and the Minnesota GOP. Watch this.
I wanted to say cultural issues as a code word for rube, white, rural, Christian, heterosexual, male, nationalist, that are just focused on their wives being too mouthy, sir.
Yeah. Well, look, let's just be frank. Women have become too mouthy.
Okay. So let me see. I'm supposed to read something here. Minnesota U.S. Senator Royce White says he's not going to bother going after the votes. Oh, he says he's not going to bother after going after the votes of white suburban women, to wit, swing voters, because he's not cucked and is writing them off as already being Democrats. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously they don't understand what it means to say a woman's scorn. I'm like, just like my grandmother would say, bless them, just bless them.
Oh, bless her heart.
Just bless them, Lord. Just bless their little hearts. Because at the end of the day, women can show you better than we can tell you. And so that is especially what is happening now. It is not by accident that a woman is at the top of the ticket. Women, and I think even in our communities, as we see that, as we hear that, all that does, every time that they make those comments, what it does is it activates another woman somewhere or a set of women somewhere. So yes, we are operating with a different kind of a level of thinking and focus. Those are distraction. Those are, poor little men that are sad and upset because they don't have anybody to boss and control. So
maybe I should have asked you, why are women so mouthy? You would have slapped me through the screen, right? So listen,
it's so funny. It's actually almost hilarious. It's interesting. The one thing, and some people may really get upset with that. I mean, it's word is extremely disrespectful, but it is so asinine and so immature that at the end of the day, like every time they say those things, even when Steve Bannon was talking, I was like, what you talking about, Willis? Like I'm sitting there listening to him and I'm like, you just going through all of these little pieces. And so like they're talking to each other. And then maybe if they vote for one another and each other, they can be satisfied. But ultimately, being that women make the majority of this country, that literally there's a really good chance that you may not win if you keep coming for women.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ignorant. Let me just say, just real quick, I want to get to the poll. It says, is Vice President Harris talking enough about policy? 70, thank you, almost 1,000 of you have voted. Thank you, I really appreciate it. And you say 77% say yes, the perfect amount. 21% say not enough. And she's talking too much about policy, says 2%. So thank you guys, I appreciate that. That is a very interesting poll, and I'm glad that so many people.
Don, can you say it again? I'm sorry. The results.
So, you want to hear the results? Okay.
Yes.
So over 1,000 people have voted, and it says, is Vice President Harris talking enough about policy? It was, when I read it last time, it was 79%. 78% say yes, the perfect amount. 20% say not enough, and 2% say she's talking too much about policy. So 78 overwhelmingly, they say she's talking enough about policy, the perfect amount. All right.
There you have it.
All right. Got it. Good. Okay. So here's what I want to say this, because after we had Royce White, guess what Donald Trump is doing? All right. what he's posting on Truth Social after that, he says a vile, disgusting, misogynist smear. He has claiming that Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris engaged in sexual favors to get ahead in their political careers, which is a debunked conspiracy theory. What the?
Well, Don, I like to say this. For all of this talk from Donald Trump around Kamala sleeping her way to the top, he slept his way to the bottom. So what's the issue? Like, ultimately, when you see the felony convictions that he has, the sexual assault charges, you just slept yourself to the wrong way, right? And so don't put that behavior on others. That's very indicative of how men, particularly insecure men, attack women. That at the end of the day, that he wants to, and we're seeing this expand all across the country. Like, we're seeing it with them, right? When you don't have anything legitimate to bring a legitimate concern, what you do is you try to go to the same old sexist tropes. And one of those tropes is literally trying to defile a woman by literally trying to over-sexualize her, or to put a smear on her and her character in some way, because your inability to be able to see that there are women that are far, far smarter than you. There are women that are much more prepared for you. And there are Black women that are beating you on all fronts, but I'm just going to stay there I'm just going to leave that right there for now. That ultimately, the only thing that I think one of the strategies has been to actually try to create a smear on her character and her integrity, and find ways to actually over-sexualize her and to frame it. Now it's her and Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's the first that I've heard from that. That's quite interesting. But I don't think that is, once again, every single time he puts that kind of information out, I think what he has done is he has evangelized 10 other women that are going to vote against him. We're familiar with.
Jasmine Crockett, and Jasmine is going to be on the show later on in the week. Jasmine Crockett has a few choice words to say about Donald Trump today. Watch this.
John, real quick, Congresswoman, before I let you go, do you think Donald Trump shows up September 10th?
No, but if he does show up, he is about to get his butt handed to him. So I'm here for it either way. He can go and cower in a corner, or he can show up and be lit on fire. Either way, I'm good.
What she's saying there is he's got a big mouth, right? He's big, bad, and bold on social media, but then she doesn't believe he's going to show up because he keeps complaining about microphones and such. And he'd rather go to the gutter talking about whether she's Black enough or who she's slept with or hasn't slept with in her career.
I mean, that's what you do when you don't really stand for anything, when you know that you're losing, when you know that you're a desperate man. I mean, she told him here in Atlanta, if he had something to say to her, come say it to her in her face. And he hasn't. And like her, I don't know if he will. And if he does, I think that she is adequately prepared to do what she does best.
So you heard what Royce White said, and you heard what he's saying, and Jasmine Crockett is saying he's going to get his butt whipped. They're trying to pretend that they don't care about people voting a certain demographic, but they certainly seem to care about even though they're trying to push women away. They certainly the Trump campaign certainly seems to be paying attention and trying to claw back some of the votes from a certain demographic, and because one that is overwhelmingly supportive of Vice President Kamala Harris. Watch this new ad from the Trump folks.
Hi, my name is Silla.
I'm Karen Watson. I'm Yolanda Johnson from Georgia.
This is BB Diamond from New York City.
I'm Dana Galen, and I'm from Tampa, Florida.
I live in Hagerstown, Maryland.
Out here in Maricopa County.
Kalamazoo County, Michigan.
I am a proud African immigrant living in Florida.
I'm from the great state of New Jersey.
I'm Angelina from Philly, and this November, I am not voting for Kamala Harris.
I am not voting for Kamala Harris.
I'm not voting for Kamala Harris.
I am not with Kamala Harris.
I am not with her.
I'm not with her.
I am not with Kamala Harris.
I'm not with Kamala.
I am not for Kamala. I am for Donald Trump.
I am not with Kamala.
I am not with her, and she is not with me.
I support President Trump and the economic policies our country experienced under his leadership as our 45th president.
President Trump will support our law enforcement agencies and fund them appropriately.
Donald Trump made me proud to be an American.
I'm with Donald J. Trump.
We need a leader who can make America great again.
Trump puts Americans first, and he always will.
We need Donald Trump.
I and millions of other Black Americans will cast my vote for Donald J. Trump.
I will proudly cast my vote for Donald J. Trump as our next president.
Let's make America great again.
So let me say the one thing. The first thing is he ain't no Black people to help him put that together, because it's clear there were no Black people that helped him put that together. The flag in the background, say her name right. I'm just like, listen, sisters flex a different kind of way. Love those sisters, wish them well that were on that, but I guess he got all 20 of the Black women that said they're not gonna vote for her. He got all 20 of them on a commercial, right? At the end of the day, it was scripted. There's nothing about that was indigenous. Matter of fact, the response that you and I just had, that is the response of Black America is going to have. We are going to see that and laugh, because we're looking at it and we see the fingerprints of nobody. You didn't have a single Black person on the team, because clearly you didn't have a single Black person on the team. Not seriously. Like, you snatched some people up, you paid a couple of folks, you got your flag, you put them on there and said, you want to do this. I ain't even mad, because I hope they still vote against them. I mean,
LaTosha, I do have to say that I did a road trip, and I did encounter lots of people, mostly Black men, but there were some Black women as well, saying that they were going to vote for Donald Trump. There are some out there.
Oh, there are, right? I'm just saying 95% of the rest of us are not over there, and 95 beats 5 every time. So I'm clear about that. I am clear if those women are voting for him, like, just bless them, right? I'm saying, but I'm very clear about 3 things after watching that. One, he did not have a Black person on his production team at all. I could go through and point through how I know that. Secondly, that the women that voted, none of them actually spoke from the heart. If you watch them, they were literally reading a script. Third, so I'm not even sure if they're real voters or not, or they were just actors on that piece, right? And so the point of the matter is, yes, there will be, unfortunately, there will be some people that will vote for Donald Trump. And yes, some of them will be Black folks, and some of them will be Black women. What I do know for sure is that while that 5% he can play with that and make commercials or whatever he wants, 95% of us are going to go a certain kind of way. And that is, we're going to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
What does my friend Bakari say? All skin folk ain't kin folk, is what he says. So
we had a whole commercial. We had a whole commercial around that last election cycle.
And it worked?
It worked quite well, actually.
So listen, let's talk about that, because you
so
said
I'm not even going to say anything negative about those sisters, because I don't know those sisters. So I'm not saying anything negative about them at all.
You're just saying 95% of Black women are for her.
That's what I am saying is the overwhelming vast majority of Black women and men. The only other group that votes as a solid block at the same level as Black women are Black men. So we got to dispel this idea that Black men are some way being led off by Trump. You think we don't know? We don't know who Trump is? Ultimately, Trump is actually, he's entertaining. Like, the conversation and commitment are 2 different things. So talking to people and they're saying, oh, they're talking about Trump, that's one thing. A commitment to it, show me. We've not seen that.
Yeah, it was eye-opening to me, though, the number of men, and to my team, number of Black men who said that they were supporting Donald Trump. I mean, unprompted, they did. But listen, even though and my other question was, will white women show up this time? Polling ahead of the 2024 race shows signs of political gender divide has widened to its furthest point in American history. This recent New York Times Siena College poll in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin revealed that 55% of registered men support Trump, compared to 39% of women, a staggering 16-point difference. The Times Siena poll, conducted last week in Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina, likewise found the exact same difference. America is rapidly becoming a gender polarized country, and it could prove to be a major problem for societal stability. According to Pew, 71% of young Democratic women said they will never date or marry someone who votes Republican. What do you think of this sort of political gender divide? Not sort of, gender divide.
Now that last one, that last stat you just shared, I've not heard that one. That might be a game changer right there. That's a game changer. But I think a couple of things. I think that it's not just the presidential election this time. That reproductive rights and reproductive justice is a big issue for women. Not necessarily just about abortion, but really around who has control and authority to tell us what to do with our bodies. Like, that's a big issue, right, for women. And what we've seen is it's activated women across the board. And so white women in particular, what I've seen is I've actually seen more energy and more organizing in that community than I've seen even in elections, even with Hillary Clinton election. I do want to remind people that Hillary got more votes than Trump. It wasn't like she got slaughtered. She got more votes than Trump. It was just where she got the votes in terms of electoral college. But aside from that, I do think that there's a multitude of issues that are in office, that are in play. One, that Donald Trump has actually served. So now you've got a person that's running that we know him and we know his policies and we know how dangerous and damaging he can be. I think that's a factor that works against him. Secondly, he's not coming in this position as a place of strength. This is a man that has numerous felony convictions, but also is literally looking at some other elements himself from some other cases as well. In addition to that, you have you've got a strong candidate that I think the attitudes of seeing a woman as president, that's shifted. The political landscape of actually being able to see a woman in the White House, we've seen her in the White House for the last 3.5 years in the role of vice president, but it's not a far stretch for us to actually see a woman being in the White House. I think all of those factors are at play as well.
Interesting. So I found it interesting too. 71% of young Democratic women say that they will never date or marry someone who votes Republican. So let's see. Let's read some of these because you found it surprising. I did too. Miss Ladybug says, heck no, if he's Republican. Beth Bear says, no way. Cindy D says, no. Sarah Habib says, no, Don, I dated a Republican once. It doesn't work. Disco Ball Gooder says, no, I don't sleep with the enemy.
Wow. I'm really shocked at that number. Wow.
Yeah, let's see. Say it to her face. That's something else. We don't share the same values. Unequally yoked, says Jen Owens. Wow. As long as he kept it to himself, says Sandra Kelly. Huh. Interesting.
That's a really interesting one for me. I don't know if you know the story about Liberia, how the women in Liberia actually literally stopped war in that country. Right. And so let me tell you, there's a power of a woman. Like people
they call it the power of something else. Can we say that?
Don't underestimate the power of a woman. and the power of women. Like that is a game changer. I'm actually shocked that number will be that high. Like I would never marry someone Republican. That's interesting. Wow.
LaTosha, you're out there doing the work. Do you have the bus this time or the RV? What are you doing?
Absolutely. We've got buses. We got a fleet of buses. We have the blackest bus in America that we are on our bus tour right now as we speak in Ohio. We're going to 12 states in the next, 15 states. We're doing 15 states. We are headed to North Carolina. This is a really interesting race because as you talk about,
I'm just going to step away and sneeze. Go on. Sorry.
Yes. So as you talked about this election cycle, what we know is Georgia and North Carolina are in play now. And so, and possibly even Florida, which is a place that was not really considered a toss-up state. I think because reproductive rights, there's a reproductive rights issue on the ballot. Florida is going to be interesting to watch, Don, mark my words. But North Carolina and Georgia, I think, are really, really in play this election cycle. There is in North Carolina, I'm just going to say there's a nut that's running. The lieutenant governor is just a massive.
Yeah, we know. We're worried about Georgia though, because there's some shenanigans going on.
There's some shenanigans going on, right? That's why part of what we're working on in other groups like Georgia Stand Up and and other groups throughout the state, the People's Agenda, Georgia Coalition of People's Agenda, and others that are working together in this state, that we've got to have an overwhelming increase in the turnout. That what we want is we want to so overwhelm the vote that people, when they make their decision, when they show up to vote, that we actually shift Georgia. Now, listen, Georgia's a state that they didn't believe that we could get 2 Democratic senators, yet one, but to get 2 Democratic senators. And then certainly this is also the state that mainstream media was like, oh, well, now you've got this Herschel Walker, who was this football player that was running. And
oh my gosh,
win, which was
back memories.
Right. So I just want to remind people. And what did we do? We came out and we beat them. And once again, in the election, the runoff election, what's happened in January. So it's not a matter of the numbers here. When you look at the demographics in Georgia, you've got literally, it's a much more diverse Georgia. You've got you've got a younger electorate. And so really the numbers can be on our side. We just got to mobilize. Our piece, what we can't take for granted is we've got to mobilize, but absolutely Georgia is winnable and we are in play.
LaTosha Brown, you're the best. Georgia, I mean, if Georgia turns, or if Georgia goes blue, if North Carolina goes blue, is Florida in play?
You know, it's interesting. I actually think there's some possibility. You know, if I'm playing spade, you know, I would count my books. I would count Georgia and North Carolina
as a possible.
Yes, Florida would be a possible.
it would be Georgia, North Carolina, 2 and a possible.
There'll be 2 and a possible.
I want to play spades with you. I'm gonna have to come travel with you.
Oh, listen now, listen. I grant no mercy. Just got to be ready to come with it now.
Explain your T-shirt before we go.
So put a woman in charge. A good friend of mine made these T-shirts I love. I do think that the best place for a woman is in the house, the White House. And so after all of these years of literally, when we talk about women's suffrage and this moment, I really do believe that we're in this space. That we have to have a more reflective democracy. People that we have to have a more representative and reflective democracy. How the hell we are the majority of this country, and we in 2024 we've not had a woman as president, right? Like how do we get here? But I'm glad that we're here at this moment. And what I firmly believe is that, you know, women are going to do what we need to do. The women and those that love us, and our brothers and our non-gender conforming family, we actually have a vision of a different kind of America, one that we deserve.
I love that. A woman's place is in the house, the White House.
The White House.
Thank you, LaTosha. Best of luck to you. Please come back. I really enjoyed our conversation. I miss your face and your presence. You're the best.
I know, I miss you too. So I will be back on Lemon Live.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye, LaTosha.
Bye-bye.
That was LaTosha Brown. A lot of you in the chat were asking, who is this incredible lady who is on the show? And that is LaTosha Brown. She's a renowned community organizer, political strategist, and she is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, an organization whose get out the vote efforts literally turned the tide on many elections, the Alabama State Senate in 2017, but also on the race in 2020. I spoke to her a lot. Okay. So here we are as I read some of your things. Apologies, Don and Tim. Hi. Apologies, Don and Tim. Lady Burger, what are you apologizing to me and Tim for? LaTosha is the best, says John Youngs. Thank you for supporting independent media, everyone, by the way. Thank you, Norman Sowards, for supporting independent media. Also, thank you. It's Norman, and then there's somebody else who is supporting independent media. Henry Mars. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to us that you do that. And we don't request or ask that you do it, but thank you so much. So that was great. Look, we got a lot covered there. Got a lot covered. Here's the book again. It's, if you know, I've been like leaving books in hiding places in New York City, and I'm going to leave them. And I left them in other places. You'll have to figure out exactly where I left them. So maybe there's one in your town. But let's see. I want to read at least every day. I said I was going to read something to you. So I'm going to start today. So we have some good engagement of the folks who are in today. So my book is it's called I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. Okay, so bear with me on this. I know you guys love me reading to you. This is story time. And I dedicate the book, I said, with love and gratitude to Mom, Mommy, and the matriarchs of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. And thus, I start and I write about this. I don't know if I can read about this for long because I'll start crying. The prologue is to my sister. And I start out by saying a letter to Lisa. And I say, hey, big sis, my sister died suddenly in 2018 of an accidental drowning. And I say, hey, big sis, how you doing up there? We miss you, but we're learning to live with it. Mom and Ema and I spend a lot of prayers on one another. We lift each other up the way that you and Ema and I did every night when we were kids. At my weariest, I close my eyes and go back to that ritual. Mommy always kept the door open between the room you shared with Ema and the room I shared with Mommy. I could hear you and Ema as we all knelt in the dark next to our beds. That hard floor beneath your knees, that's part of it, for sure. Bowing your head acknowledges how the long day has humbled you. Folding your hands together makes you stop flailing around. You settle down and say your prayers. First, we said the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, and so on. It covers all the bases. Praise the name, trust the divine. Give me that daily bread. Forgive me as I forgive others. Banish temptation and evil. Eyes on the coming kingdom, now and forever. Amen. And then it goes on. Anyways, that is the beginning of my book. And I hope you will go out and purchase it. Please pre-order it for you, for other people. If there's something going on in your life that you're having trouble with, or maybe you're in transition, you will find this will help you. Maybe you're in a dark place in your life where we all have been. I started this book to talk about religion when I was actually at a very good place in my life. I started in 2022. And then, as you know, I left CNN, right? And my career and my life suddenly changed. I put this book down and I started, I didn't start completely over again, but the book became something else. It became much more meaningful. And it actually teaches people how to get through tough times, because we all go through tough times, how to do it. I did it very publicly. And so this is just so you know, I'm going to say chapter 4 is called Just As I Am. And it says, what are we if we're not in transition? Dead, right? Or dormant at best. Change is hard, but I'm an optimist. So I see the stage of change. I see the stage of change as a state of grace, a plane of pure possibility. When you're in flux, you're like Schrodinger's cat. Things could go either way. So you might as well be a cool cat while you ride it out. So anyways, I think you guys will find something in this book. There's something for everyone, especially as it relates to the election. So it's on sale, pre-sale now. You can go online and search for I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. You can go to your favorite bookstore, whether it's Barnes and Noble or whatever, or go to Amazon, and it's very easy to order on Amazon. So there you go. There it is right now. And there's also a link right now in the top of the chat. Look at that picture. They had a little makeup on, but I don't look that much different. My skin is good. I look the same as the picture. Okay. So thank you guys. Let's see. Thank you for story time, says Cheryl Gibson. Thank you for being a part of my story time. I really appreciate that. Don, will you still be doing your podcast if you are hired by cable television? Of course. Now listen, the podcast is the audio version is on Apple or whatever. This isn't exactly a podcast. It's more of a streaming show, but you can call it whatever you want to call it. Nice picture, Don, says Pamela Williams. Thank you. So yes, I will continue with this channel no matter what happens in my life, because I have found a certain sense of autonomy and freedom by being able to do this. I can do and say whatever I want. It is a great platform to have. It is growing by leaps and bounds. Not only is this platform growing, but you should see on my social, off the charts. Our TikTok channel. My sister, Ema, who I write about in this book, has been encouraging me to get on TikTok for years. Our whole family has been laughing at her because she was addicted to TikTok. She's like, she would send us memes from TikTok all the time, and we would say, could you get off TikTok? And now we're all on TikTok. So she was right. And also my Instagram as well. So go on. It's Don Lemon Official, I think, on both Instagram and TikTok. And then the Twitter, if you care to go on Twitter. I know sometimes it's a bit tough because they can bombard you there. It's just Don Lemon. And then you can look for Don Lemon on Facebook as well. And it's all shared. So Thank you, guys. I will see you tomorrow. By the way, let me know in the chat or wherever it is, even if it's on social, what should I talk to Jasmine Crockett about? What do you want to know from Jasmine Crockett? We have the great Jasmine Crockett tomorrow. Okay. So Nancy Ramirez, I agree. Great conversation. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed you guys. Thank you for being part of the Lemonation. Thank you for being Lemonheads, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Thumbs up, by the way.